And we are live. Happy Friday, everybody. Women of the World Network, happy Friday. I have my special guest friend here, Tracie Root, with me. Hi, Tracie. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hope you're doing great today. And I'm excited for our conversation this morning with Tracie. And let me introduce her to you real quick. So Tracie Root is a coach, a speaker, an educator, and a community builder. She said goodbye to corporate America and found her new calling after a personal family tragedy. Tracie shifted to helping others at a deeper level while making more time for her own fulfillment, adventure, and joy. Now Tracie coaches women around the country to help them move from stuck to shining bright so they can be bolder and brighter, live in their authentic truth, and thrive. Love that. Yeah, I didn't realize we have a similar stories. I was in a corporate world for a lot of time as well, for a long time.
Yes. Well, I think that's a really common story, actually, for most of us who are older, especially in women in entrepreneurship, right? We have this belief in the earlier part of our lives that we're supposed to be doing things in a certain way. And especially unless we come up in an entrepreneurial household, we don't see that as the way it's supposed to be, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for women too, right? You're supposed to get married, have a family, like all of those things too.
Yeah.
So I like to say that, I did college on the 9-year plan. My first husband and I lived together, bought the house, got married, had the babies. So we did things in an unusual order for the, early in the 21st century, but not so unusual these days. And I think that comes down to just deciding what you want over time. Because the things that are ingrained in us as children and as young adults are very set on, are very much coming from the people who bring us up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. But I know some people who love both, who do corporate and business. But yeah, I definitely I'm loving the place I'm now.
Yeah. Well, and I started that way. I started my coaching business while I was still working full time, and because I didn't know that I was looking for something different. It just was kind of something that fell into my life. And it started to be fun, right? Helping other people. And that's kind of what I did in corporate anyway. I was very customer service oriented, really working with like the whole population. I was the space planner. Those of you who are in corporate, I kept track of where everybody sat and what their furniture looked like and like, did the facilities like layout stuff. So at that time, basically when that transition happened, I was at a campus of around 1,600 people, probably knew 1,000 of them personally because I'd worked with them over and over the years for, like I said, almost eight years, almost a decade. Excuse me. So it was a very comfortable place, but it was also very friendly and, always like, what can I do for you? How are you doing? All of those things, which is a really nice natural transition to doing any kind of coaching or support of other people, because it's basically what I was always doing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's nice to get to know your story a little bit more. So one of my favorite questions I love to ask is what makes you unique? We, being part of Women of the World Network, diversity is a huge umbrella, one of our pillars, and I love to ask that question. What makes you unique? What makes you different? What makes you tick?
Yes. Well, so we go back again to kind of how I started coaching, because that's really the main thing that I bring to my coaching practice that's different. I mean, there's not, here in California, there's not a lot of my upbringing that's particularly unique. White girl, grew up in the Silicon Valley area, went to school, went to college, lots of privilege, like all of those things are all pretty common in my history. But the thing that most people don't have in their history is the death of a husband. So and actually we can even back up. My mother passed away when she was 51. I was 26. She had cancer. And I was already with Paul, who was my first husband. And so he and I went through that together. And then a number of years later, he contracted cancer. Contracted? Do you contract? I don't know. It developed in him, I guess. And coincidentally, like in the same part of the body as my mother. And like, so there's that kind of tie-in, which was really bizarre. Yeah. And so I spent 4 years of the same time when we were having kids. We had just gotten married. We were just starting to have our family. Right after my son was born, Paul, my husband, was diagnosed with cancer. And we basically spent those next 4 years managing his illness and his treatments and his recovery and the recurrence and ultimately his passing. And at the same time, I had 2 kids. I was working full time unless I was on maternity leave, and learning how to be a caregiver, how to be a mother at the same time, how to continue on with a career that was our livelihood and that I was good at and I enjoyed. So like work was an escape, but then I would come home to this really hard situation over and over for years. And so what that gives me is a perspective on loss and a perspective on struggle and challenges and trauma that is unique to a lot of people. I mean, everyone has something in their past, some sort of loss, some sort of traumatic experience. And I'm not saying mine is better or worse than anyone's. And I would never say that, because that's what I've learned, is that it's all unique to us, but it ties us all together. And that's one of my kind of, favorite conversations, to help people understand that if they're going through struggles, that challenging times come for all of us. And this last year actually has been a prime opportunity to talk about that, because we're all going through challenging times, having managed this pandemic for the last almost year. And I can take the history of going through my husband's illness and his passing and relate that to any level of struggle that people might have related to COVID, related to their jobs, related to the relationships that they're in. And so it's something that I'm proud to be able to bring to a conversation. And it comes back to everything in the world happens for us. And that's how I see all of that struggle and hardship happening for me, is so that I can bring it to people now, and give them hopefully some perspective and some hope, excuse me, to, be able to navigate what they're going through.
Wow. Wow. I didn't know those details. Thank you for sharing that, Tracie.
Absolutely.
You're strong.
Well, it's funny because everyone's strong. We're all strong. Yeah. Right? We just need to remember it when times get hard. And I think, that's ultimately, that's the last message, is that if something's hard, who will you be once you get through it? And how will it be for you? Exactly. That's like one of my main kind of mantras, is how is this for me instead of just happening to me? And going, we can go even back further to when my parents got divorced when I was, I think, 4th grade, and how that, being in the older child in the middle of their relationship, kind of helped form my strength, for lack of a better word. We're talking about that, right? How did being the older sibling of parents who really didn't want to talk to each other, going back and forth between houses, that is formative, and it affects all of us. And it's a really common story, being a child of divorce here in California, especially, right? And but the way it happened for me is to be able to have that kind of ability to not negotiate, but have conversation, like understand both sides, I think was one part of that. And also kind of a maturity that, I probably had a little bit of when I was 10, but as you grow older, it just builds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
So it all happens for you.
I love that. Yeah, I love
I mean,
that. That's
the
great.
struggles. I mean, you came from like the whole other side of the planet, like the challenges that you go through, and and that's something that I didn't experience, and I really probably will never experience. But there's challenges for all of us, and if
Absolutely.
we can all remember, like, how is it happening for us? What can I learn from this situation and take forward?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great, great reminder. Yeah. Everything happens for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 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 It makes us stronger, makes us better at the end of it. Yeah. I love that message. Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of transitioning, I think, without even intentional, but I mean, it is. We transition. I love it. I love this organic flow and conversations. We kind of go into how you came up to coaching. I mean, I can guess based on your story, right? But it's we're leading into more of that. So how did you come to do what you do today?
Yeah. Well, so as I mentioned, I was working in the corporate environment. I had a couple of children. My husband had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And about, when you're in grief like that, it's kind of like a fog. Mm-hmm. I'm sure anyone who's gone through things like that can understand that, whether it's a parent or a friend or a spouse or a child. Like, there's a fog that has that, that whole part of my life is a big blur. I don't really have a great memory, which it's weird because I can keep tasks in my head, but like if I try to remember history, my brain like loses it. But anyway, so that fog that I had for the first year and a half or so, kind of started coming out of it in late 2009. He had passed in 2008. Sorry, my years are off. Anyway, about a year and a half later. And kind of started looking around my life, my situation. I didn't have any family living close by. While I had friends at work, I didn't have I was never a sorority girl. Like, I was always very, self-sufficient, right? So I didn't have a big crowd of friends, didn't really ever ask for help. This was all pre-coaching, of course. And so I was very kind of on my own. And I looked at my family, my two little babies, and my job, and just kind of said, I don't want this to be what my life is like when I'm 60. I need to do something. And if anything's going to change, I have to change, right? That's like a meme, right? It's like something everyone says. If anything's going to change, you have to change. Right. So I realized that before doing any personal development, that was true. And I started with what I could see in the mirror every day, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to start. I didn't have a coach. I didn't know about coaching. I didn't have friends or family who I felt comfortable with talking about this. So I started with what I could see in the mirror, and I decided to go on a diet. Hey, if I lose weight, I'll feel better, I'll have more energy, I'll feel good about how I look, and then I can kind of start to get back in the world again. What I didn't realize is the process of going through that program that I started that had a coach and a community and some education and some structure, that not only would I lose 55 pounds, but I also learned what life could be like when you had different thoughts, right? I had to reframe my perspective on what health even was. Because I just thought I wanted to lose weight. I didn't realize I wanted health. I thought I knew what to do. I just needed to do it, right? And I didn't know that having someone else who'd been there before me guide me, I didn't know the value of that. It'd never been something that I experienced. So about part of the way through my weight loss period, I started helping my coworkers in the office, 1,000 of them, like I mentioned, who started seeing me melt away. And they're like, well, what are you doing? Because I want to do the same thing. And so, of course, I'm going to say, well, here, do this with me. And that's how coaching got started, is I started with that specific health program. Oh, wow. That was what I did for coaching. I was a health coach for about 3 years exclusively. And it allowed me to leave corporate. I actually moved across the country for a short period of time to live near my parents, ended up getting engaged to come back here in California and got remarried. That's a whole other part of that story. But it got me on the road of working for myself, understanding what help really does for you, like the value of help, because I didn't get that for a long time until I kept working kind of on myself and like, why is this important to me? And I realized that every time that I did have help in my life, I was able to, kind of succeed. So, so I did that exclusively for about 3 years. And then I started moving more toward whole life coaching. My line now is personal coaching, because I really cover not only health, but life coaching, business coaching, whatever it is, because they're all so intertwined. They're all us.
Yeah.
So if we can use the same principles that I learned and used in helping people with their health to help people with other areas of their life, then I absolutely wanted to do that, because it's all related. And that bigger picture is really, even when people are just looking for health coaching, often it's because they need other things, just like I did.
Mm-hmm.
And the health is really kind of a symptom of things being out of balance elsewhere. So, so a few years later, I started doing other things. I really started enjoying doing group activities, group programs, workshops. And that's when I met Katerina Rando, and she started teaching me about how to do workshops and in-person events. And that just really resonated with me. And I took that, from there to where I am today, almost 9 years later from where we started, really focusing on personal coaching and supporting other entrepreneurs with their events and workshops with Gather.
Love that. I love that. It's so interesting. It's so powerful. Time and time again, just like we talked about, it's what happened. And I love Katerina Rando, of course. But what happens happens for you. Even your journey shows that, right? And I know it definitely happened with me as well, when something happens or we have this, health, like I'm going to go like you did, go on a diet. And we don't know at a time why we're doing that, or maybe like we think we want to, and then there is something bigger behind that.
There is
that's leading us to that, and that's where I think it's so beautiful and so amazing. We just need to trust, and trust.
And the whole thing is to be open to what's possible, right? Because we don't know what's possible until we allow ourselves to consider what's possible, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the definition of a block, right? Or of being stuck, is being like, this is it. Nothing else is possible. Well, no, like the whole universe is possible. There's so much possible. Yeah. What do you want?
Right.
So to help women find that voice inside them that helps them understand what is it that they even want, and be brave enough to state it, just even to yourself. Right. We're so, when Paul and I were married, he was like the dreamer and I was the doer. And I was very like, boom, 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 very in a channel, doing my thing. Like I said, like you do the things you're supposed to do, and that's what you do. And after he passed away, I kind of had to be both for my family. And it allowed me to start to expand that channel and say, this isn't all that's possible. I can do something different. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But what if I kind of considered something new? And then, the ball just started rolling, and here I am. Yeah. And it's still rolling, because I don't know what next year is going to look like. I mean, that's the big lesson of the pandemic, right? Yeah. We don't know what 3 months from now is going to look like. We really don't. Right. We're starting to get an idea and be able to like imagine. But 6 months ago, we had no idea where we would be right now. We had the pandemic, we had the election, like all these things here in the US. We had no idea. Now that we're here in 2021, we can see a little bit of what we might be headed towards. We still don't really know, because we can't control it. Right. We can only extrapolate potential.
Yeah.
And we can do that in our own lives too, right? We can't control it, but we can extrapolate potential, and we can make a plan to start on a path. And if things change, we can recalibrate. And that's where having support and, coaching and all of that stuff comes in, because sometimes it's hard to see when we're kind of on that path already. If we're just in that channel, what else is out there that's the bigger picture?
Coaching is so important. I think everyone should have 2-3 coaches, honestly.
Well, and a community of other people that they can trust, right? And I know that that's a big thing for you. If we can, I have coaches in a couple of different areas, but really I might go to that one person or that individual that's helping me in that one area, but I'm also going to talk to my team. I'm going to talk to my my friends in the community. I'm going to talk to other people who I've met who've done things, right? Whether they're my coach or not. Yeah. The fact that we're part of a community together means that we're here to support each other. That's what it's all about.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, this, it's a great conversation, and we are about time right now. So please, ladies, connect with Tracie. She's absolutely beautiful, amazing, powerful story. Love getting to know you better, Tracie, and thank you for taking the time. We will post a link to connect with Tracie, connect with her, talk to her. She has an amazing community. Gather, love that community. But yeah, if you have any parting words as we are closing, Tracie, feel free.
Yeah, my favorite way to kind of close everything out is this: that a mentor told me probably about 5 years ago. This was kind of at that tipping point of moving into doing new things. That everything we do is a choice. Like, we don't get to choose what happens to us, but everything we do is a choice. So what do you choose, right? So something horrible might happen to you. What are you going to do? It's okay if you don't know right now, but to stay open to that, right? What are you going to do? When you're, working on your health, you have choices. What are you going to choose? It's totally in your power to make that choice. Same thing happens with our careers. We might have a boss, but we have choices. Yeah. If you're in business, you have choices, like maybe more choices than we can manage, but we get to decide what that is. And the way we respond to the events in our lives is how we create the outcome. And that's part of our creative process, is we get to create that. So just remember that everything you do is a choice, and that's up to you, and you get to create your experience as a result.
That's beautiful. Yes. Yes, agree completely. Thank you again, Tracie. This was wonderful. Great to see you. Hope you have a good weekend. I hope to see you later today. And so we'll post the links, and and see you all soon. Thank you, ladies.
See you soon. Thank you. Bye.